Thank you for joining us in our 2021 virtual Black History Month membership mixer. I'd like to take this moment to tell you why it is so important that we share our history and our legacy through verbal traditions. This is important because a lot of times Black people are not at the table when it comes time to write history books and write movies. Although things are changing and we're beginning to see our stories shared more and more, there are several stories that are not shared. And so, this is why it is important that we sit down with the different generations and share what we've learned and we share what we know. Because this is the best way to ensure that our stories stay alive and our stories are shared. Sit down with your grandparents and your great grandparents. Sit down with your grandchildren. Sit down with your children and tell them the lovely stories of the history that you made. I'd like to take this moment as the president of the Mary McLeod Bethune Los Angeles section of the National Council of Negro Women to share my story. I was the first Black female to be recruited in the Marine Corps in Dayton, Ohio, at the recruiting office where I was. It was such an historic moment. I was also able to include or recruit two other Black women. What a moment, right? Such history in my own life. And you never think about it sometimes until a moment like this comes up and someone says, "What did you do?" So take this time, think about it. What did you do? Because I'm sure you've done a first and a historic moment in your life too. And don't forget to share your story. This is Marnisha Mitlow, the president of the Mary McLeod Bethune Los Angeles section of the National Council of Negro Women, reminding you to share your story.
My name is Carlin Smith Stein, and I'm first vice president of the Mary McLeod Bethune Section Los Angeles of the National Council of Negro Women, Inc. Here is my encounter with being the first Black person employed with the company in Roanoke, Virginia. In the late 60s, early 70s, two Black females were hired at the same time with the well-known grocery store, which at that time had no Blacks working for that store. We were treated very well by all our white co-workers, and we worked extra hard to do the very best. At first, the customers were somewhat shocked, but learned to accept us for who we were. A couple years later, I came to work with an afro. The lady who worked in the dairy department was curious about why I wore an afro. I guess she thought I was becoming a militant. But as time passed, I know she knew that I was the same person no matter how I wore my hair. My second encounter with being the first Black person was also in the 70s. I worked for a brand new television station. I was hired as an intern, working the morning shift with the director, changing reels and working the board. It was a great job. There was a young Black man who worked as a janitor there, and he worked as a cameraman. The two of us also did some acting for a promo ad for the station WRLU TV 27 in Roanoke.
I think that what's important about stories and the stories of Black women uh, is the narratives of overcoming that are very much needed now, that need to be passed down. Very similar, I always think of when Joshua had the children of Israel take a stone from the Jordan when they walked on dry land, and God did it again for his people to go into Canaan land. They took that stone, and I think it is something of a remembrance of where God has taken you from. So I think there's power in the stories of the generation before me, something that I need to take to the women who are small now, who I need to teach, like 5, 6, 7. It doesn't matter. but that stone that needs to be taken. So my big thing, and it was calling me, is what is that stone in my life? Whether it's being one of the few Black women in an occupational therapy program at USC, whether it is being one of the few Black women as a musician in a group, in a program, whatever that is, that stone, I rely on the stones from other women, right? Mary McLeod Bethune, my own mother. And those stories make me push on. Again, we stand on the shoulders of giants. And that's the power of stories. Yeah.